now going to talk about how we can use nonlinear systems to solve applied problems. And in particular, we're going to look at a stock problem. So the problem that we're going to look at is the following. Danielle bought 240 shares of Alpha Airlines stock at $40 per share, and she paid $100 in broker's fee. She kept these shares for 3 years, during which time she received a number of additional shares of the stock as dividend. Again, at the end of 3 years, her dividends were worth $19.50, and she sold all of her stock and made a profit of $78.50 after paying a $100 broker's commission. How many shares of the stock did she receive as dividends, and what was the selling price of each share of the stock? So, let's suppose that we have some unknowns. Let's get our unknowns now. Let's say X is the number of shares of dividends. And let's let P be the selling price of the stock, because it's all the stock, not just the dividends. So, the first thing that we're going to get is an equation that tells us that X times P is equal to $19.50. That's how much money we got when we sold X dividends at P dollars per stock. Okay, now the number of shares we sold, so the revenue is equal to 240 plus X, the number of stock from our dividend, times that same selling price, and our cost was equal to the 240 times the 40, how much the shares were, plus the $100. So that's going to be equal to $9,700 as our cost. Well, profit is defined as revenue minus cost. So we're going to get 240 plus X times P minus the 9,700, and that's going to be equal to our 78.50. Okay, well, that gives us 240 plus X times P equals 78.50 plus 9,700 is equal to 17,550. Or we could rewrite this as 240p plus xp equals 17550. So let's call this equation 2, and let's call this equation 1. So our system is X times P equals 1950, and 240p plus XP equals 17,550. Well, this looks like a really good one for substitution, because notice right here we have the X times P and an X times P. That means I can substitute this in. That gives me 240p plus 1950 equals 17,550. So we take our 17,550, and we're going to subtract 1950 from it. That gives us 15,600. Divide by 240, and that gives 65. We sold these at $65 a share. Well, if we sold them at $65 a share, that means we can figure out how many of our dividends there are, because we had 1950 divided by the price, 65, tells us that we got 30 shares as dividends. So $65 per share and $30 and 30 dividends answers our question. When we come back up, we look at this. There were 30 extra shares, and we sold them at $65 a share. And we have successfully answered our question.